Big story we are discussing, President Joe Biden has decided to end his re-election campaign bid after weeks of calls from within his own party to drop out of the race, to pass the torch. It seems he has done so, giving his seal of approval to his vice president, Kamala Harris. The Biden-Harris ticket no more. Just in the last hour, the Federal Election Commission now says the Biden for president campaign is now the Harris for president campaign. So they are moving quickly and full speed ahead, Bram.
Yeah, it's the Harris-TBD campaign as we wait to find out
who's going to be the other half.
Who the vice presidential nominee might be, again, assuming she gets the nomination at the Democratic Convention toward the end of August. So we've been talking to folks all day long here on 12 News and on 12 News Digital. Joining us now is a former state representative. He's not a delegate, but he is on the Credentials Committee.
That's correct.
For the Democratic National Convention. Lorenzo Sierra of Avondale?
Avondale, that's
Avondale,
right.
proudly of Avondale. Thanks so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Did President Biden do the right thing?
President Biden has and always will do the right thing by America. And I think today had to have been absolutely heart-wrenching for him. But just to understand the historical context in which we're in, and for him to realize the best chance we have at stemming this tide of authoritarianism is if I step away. Absolutely stunningly brave and just profoundly self-aware to be able to do that. I can't imagine that was easy.
And you feel a deep personal allegiance to the president. Explain that.
Well, back when the pandemic was in its height, back in October of 2020, I got COVID while we were visiting my daughter back in D.C., and I was put on a ventilator with a very slim chance of living. The president and vice president, or the Biden-Harris ticket, only made one appearance to Arizona during that election cycle, and that was over at the Barrio Cafe. I had introduced the campaign to Chef Silvana. She subsequently became part of the commercials and whatnot, and they did a campaign stop there. And obviously, I think the president asked, well, why wasn't Rep. Sierra here if he had helped set this up? And on his way from the plane, his staff had told him that I was on a ventilator and not doing well. In the middle of such a consequential time, at the height of this campaign, Joe Biden took time, about 10 minutes, to talk to my wife. How could I help? Jill and I are praying for Lorenzo. What can we do? And that's the kind of man that he is. So when I think of Joe Biden, I think about the man who was there for my family in our darkest hour.
So there's that personal connection. I have to ask about the politics of this. He had talked about being a transitional president when he ran for office back in 2020. Turned out he didn't believe he was a transitional president. And as we heard him say, only the Almighty can tell him not to run again. I guess that happened. Well, should he have been a transitional president and not put the party in this situation?
He was a transitional president. I'll tell you why. He transitioned us from incompetence at the federal level to back to competence. We got infrastructure done, the CHIPS Act, on and on and on. We transitioned from a bumbling administration, that was the Trump administration, and transitioned us back into competence. Now, in terms of the political sense, that was for him and him alone to decide, and he made that right decision today. He made that decision to say the things are whatever the polls are looking like, whatever the feelings like. And I think a lot of this, Bram, is feelings, because you tell people, people will tell you, well, the economy's bad. Well, look at everything. Inflation's at 3%. Prices are starting to go down. Interest rates are starting to go down. People are saying crime is up. Well, statistics show that crime is down. So people have these feelings about where we're at as a country right now. And I think Joe Biden was astute enough to say, you know what, me being here is not alleviating the feelings people have right now about where our country's going.
Candidly, what were you feeling after that debate at the end of June as you saw the president really have a hard time getting through that?
It was a it was a rough day for me personally, watching that. I talked to the man, I listened to him. He has always been a mile ahead of everyone else, and that time he wasn't on his A game, not by a darn stretch.
Do you think it's more than that?
You know what? I am not a doctor. I'm not anyone who can assess that in any way, shape, or form. That's for him, his doctors, and his family to understand. But what we all saw was someone that, when you have a situation where someone is telling lie after lie after lie, and you just can't keep up with it, then unchallenged, those lies become some part of a narrative that people start to believe. And so I see the situation now with Harris being able, as a prosecutor, being able to answer those questions and refute the lies in real time, where, 10 years ago, Joe Biden probably could have done that. But Father Time comes for us all, Bram.
But do you think, if she is the nominee, Kamala Harris might have a tough time answering questions about what she knew about President Biden's ability to do the job, not just at the end of June, but months before that?
And we can hash that out after the election. Right now, we've got a choice as a country. Which direction are we going to go? Are we going to keep making the progress that we're in? Or are we going to go to this Project 2025 authoritarianism style America, where we're now partnering with tyrants instead of fighting tyrants? I think that's a question better left for post-election. I don't know that it matters in this time frame, actually, right now. What she knew is what she knew, and obviously she was behind him, and she stuck with him, and I think a lot of people did as well. We all saw that debate. We all saw the interviews, but I was 100% with him, regardless of what was happening, understanding the stakes at what we're looking at right now as a country.
Lorenzo, a lot of folks, ardent supporters of President Biden, were very hesitant for him to step down. There are a lot of folks who did not want him to. They wanted him to push forward, try to get to November. Now that you do have what appears to be his seal of endorsement with Kamala Harris at the top of this party, at the top of the ticket, how do Democrats kind of rally themselves together to get ready for the next few months to try to accomplish their goal of trying to defeat Donald Trump?
And I think for Democrats, the way has always been clear for us. Now it's just a matter of who's at the top of the ticket. It's always been clear in that we're going to be fighting for a woman to make her own medical decisions. We're going to fight for a better climate. We're going to fight for good jobs. Those are the things, just the scratching the surface of what we're doing. And we're going to rally behind things that we're for. It just happens to be Kamala Harris is now at the top of that ticket, but we are going to be fighting for the things that matter to everyday Americans. It's those good jobs, the ability to see your doctor, not cutting health care. So many things that are happening in our country right now, and the trajectory that we would go under a Trump administration is something that we just can't go through right now. So I can tell you, the Democrats that I've talked to today, we are all in. I will tell you that I was sad. I was very, very sad when I first heard the announcement. And I remember coming...
Did you want him to stick it out?
I wanted him to do what he felt was best for himself and the country, and he did. And it wasn't my place to force him out, but I did feel a sense of relief when he made that announcement. And now it's, we're going to grieve for a few minutes, and it's right back on the trail. It is right back into the fight. It is right back towards the America we believe we can be. On my way here, I was listening to Hamilton. Hamilton's in town right now. And I was listening to that song one last time, just giving me chills about Joe Biden taking that time, heading to the mansions of rest.
My favorite musical. Let's end it on that note. Lorenzo Sierra, former state representative, thank you so much.